Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George. You're listening to the weekly movie show with the boys Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us this week, guys. We got some cool news stories to talk about, including Chris Nolan's next film being announced and a few other cool things. A couple of trailers I'm really excited to talk about, actually. But first, let's catch up on what everyone's been watching. Connor, give us your list.
I haven't really been watching much. I kind of have. So I finished off Titans, which we have a review out now for Titans. It's kind of bizarre, and we all mentioned this in our little group chat that this hasn't been getting a little bit more press, that there aren't more reviews out there, that this isn't, more in, I guess, the kind of general parlance of DC. But yeah, I think it definitely should be there. And, love it or hate it, I think this is well worth talking about or seeing or engaging with. So we'll check out our review and we'll get more into it in that
spoilers. With spoilers. Very, very excited to talk about some spoilers.
Also finished off Game of Thrones Season 5, rewatching that. It's Game of Thrones. I mean, I don't know what else to like. Again, it's one of the ones where most people know about Game of Thrones. If you have watched it, then you know what it is. And
how is Game of Thrones on a rewatch? Because I feel like most people watch it for all the twists and turns and shock and horror.
I think it holds up. I really do. I've always been, and I said this last time on the podcast, that I've always been really lenient on Game of Thrones. I think partially because I've never read the book, so I'm not comparing it to anything. For me, it's just a journey on kind of from scratch.
Surprised you've never read the book.
Well, it's kind of one of the only ones that I've done that with, and I realized that once I had started watching the TV show, I found it very difficult to read the book. I tried. I got a little bit through the way of the first one. It was one of the only kind of novels of that kind that I haven't just finished relatively quickly, because that's usually my bread and butter. So, it was weird. So I just kind of accepted that this is probably just going to be a TV show for me.
Have you found on your rewatch? Did you start from the beginning?
No, I started for... Okay. Well, I've rewatched it a couple of times. Usually when I'm kind of getting ready for a new season. For this one, we started at season 5. Okay. I think in my head it was going to take us longer to get through it.
So I was thinking on like a binge rewatch, you might actually have a chance of noticing just how many characters get recast in that show, because it's a lot. When you actually look at the list of them, it's crazy. Yeah. You don't notice year to year so much. Yeah, not major characters, but minor characters, and sometimes minor characters who become major characters later down the way.
Interesting.
But to be honest, I think that
that's kind of fun.
Even when the characters are the same, I usually can't remember them anyways. So I'm going through and I'm like checking who they are at any rate. And so
the only one that really fucking threw me was Dario, because they cast someone who looks nothing like the original Dario. It's so weird.
I thought that might even... Because they never addressed it. And I was trying to kind of figure out... I've always had this theory that he might be a faceless man.
Surely someone in the universe would be like, I like your new face now.
Yeah, well, you'd think
no
so.
One ever it's like he's the same guy. Anyway.
They should have gone with what I still think is one of the best... acknowledgements of a cast change, which is in Iron Man 2,
on Cheadle,
where Cheadle comes out and he goes, "It's me, let's get over it and get this done." And it was just kind of beautiful, like, oh yeah, very cool.
Question. What is your favorite Game of Thrones series?
Season?
Yeah. See, it's like there's just one.
It's probably the first one for me. I don't know.
That's what I said to you.
What?
That's the only one I watched. Again, I got into this episode in season 2, and I was like, "This is getting too Dungeons and Dragons." Season 1 had the really nice, grounded, political. It felt very real. I really loved it.
This is one of the things that I think makes Game of Thrones so successful, is that it maintains that kind of real world political intrigue, but adds so many other aspects to it that I don't think I've ever really seen in any other series. The level of gray in this series is kind of staggering. Characters that you would absolutely hate in the first series, once you get to know them or you kind of understand backgrounds or motivations, and that you begin to switch allegiances, or at least have a little bit of sympathy for why characters do certain things.
They're very complex characters, for sure.
Incredibly complex, and yeah. So I think that for me, it'd probably be the later seasons that I enjoy more, just because they've built on this kind of rich tapestry of characters, and it's bizarre to think about characters that have been and gone in that series, and you thought like that was the end all and be all when I was watching. I was like, oh, like this character is going to make it to the end, and of course they never do,
and their head gets crushed like a watermelon.
Yeah, and
you never want to watch
it's a really kind of fascinating twists and turns, and so yeah, I think that the later series is far better, and I think that the fact that they managed to introduce a lot more of the kind of fantasy aspect to it is really a testament to or it is a testament that they've managed to maintain that kind of the realism throughout the world. So,
cool.
Yeah. Finally, I rewatched Final Space. It was kind of one of those things that I needed a short TV show to rewatch. And that'll be usually Rick and Morty that I'll just jump in on an episode with, or there's a couple of others. But I just went back to Final Space, and it's I get reminded of how much I love that series, and how annoying it is that we don't have a release date for season 2, which has been confirmed and is in production, but still no actual date.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was quite fun. Nothing incredible, but a solid, definitely a riff on Rick and Morty, but with some quite obvious differences. But yeah, I think it's a good one to chuck on.
Yeah,
I loved the first half of the first episode.
Well, Ben, why don't you go next and enlighten us?
Alrighty. I watched an entire season of television in one sitting, which I do not do often. If you haven't seen this, Connor, I think it's going to be your new favorite show, maybe, like myself. I watched Bill Hader's HBO show from last year, Barry.
Oh, okay.
Which stars him as a hitman who, through a series of events in Los Angeles, decides he wants to become an actor and move away from that life. Like I said, I just sat down, watched all 8 half-hour episodes in one go. Couldn't stop. I fucking loved it, start to finish. It reminds me of, like, I don't know, a funnier Breaking Bad or something. Just like really, really funny. Bill Hader is great. He does a lot of writing, directing on the show. I fucking love Bill Hader to death.
Yeah.
And he just paints this amazing character, and the show gets like so fucking dark.
So is this
suddenly.
A Netflix?
HBO.
HBO. Because I saw the Barry trailer on Netflix, but I've also seen the Barry season 2 teaser trailer just dropped 30 minutes ago. Have you watched that?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
That's cool.
Dropped 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, literally. I looked up Barry, and it's Barry season 2.
Yeah, nice.
HBO. Yeah.
Yeah. I highly recommend this show. Like I said, it's just 8 half-hour episodes. As soon as I saw the time code on the first episode, it was half an hour. I was like, fuck yes. It's not 45 minutes.
Do you see, like, season 1 has obviously been very successful in your eyes. Do you see there's a platform to build on this for the season 2 and longer?
Totally. If the show got cancelled straight away, I would not be complaining because it is so perfectly enclosed as its own little thing. But there's still absolutely more story to tell. And like I said, I'm happy to keep watching.
Well, let's also be honest, George. Why even ask? Like, you won't make it past the first season anyways. So.
Oh, you never know, bro.
That's why I asked.
Times are changing.
You just needed to know.
Times are changing, my friends.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I also watched all of the available episodes of Young Justice season 3 up to this point. Just binged like through 9 of them.
Cool.
I can love that show to death.
Killer. I watched not much. I just watched The Equalizer, something I'd never seen before.
Cool.
The first one.
Yeah. The first
okay.
one.
What'd you think?
I really, really enjoyed it.
So likable, isn't it?
It's within the first 5 minutes, I turned to Ash and I said, "This film is done." Saves the Cat. So there's this book, this screenwriting book out there, and it's this writing technique called Saves the Cat, wherein within the first 5 minutes of when you see a protagonist, they save a cat up a tree. So you immediately buy into them, they've got empathy, and that's what this film does at the beginning. And immediately Denzel Washington, fuck, that guy is so likable, and simultaneously a badass motherfucker that you don't want to mess with.
So charismatic.
Unbelievably charismatic. I really like this. I really like how the concept of the film ties in with the title. And I really thought the production value was fantastic. It has really nice tracking shots, lots of wide shots, just really good, solid kind of action, Saturday night popcorn kind of flick.
Is that Antoine Fuqua?
Yeah, I think it is, right?
That movie always kind of not confused me, but like pleasantly surprised me because there's so many glaring issues with that film that are just like they're right there. Like easy criticisms. He just goes around randomly helping people. Why
is that a criticism?
Well, I mean, like from an objective point of view, it doesn't seem to flow in that way. Like there's like three kind of subplots going along.
They don't really. It feels like an episode, like a season of TV, exactly. Kind of condensed into a movie.
Yeah, and on kind of an objective viewing, that would seem to lessen the enjoyment of the film. But it is so likable, the overall film, and kind of hits all these like really important notes that it just seems not to matter.
I didn't find that bothered me whatsoever.
No, not at all.
And I think there is a logical thread between them that makes it work. But when you say it does feel like a season, I can see they kind of feel like little chunks.
Yeah. It's based on a TV series, so that kind of
But I love the brutality in this as well.
Oh man, yeah.
Like
that Home Alone sequence at the end is brilliant.
Like you can just imagine like where they're writing the scripts and they're like where is he gonna work? Maybe like an aquarium, or Bunnings, Buck or Bunnings, all the stuff, all the things, weaponry you can use in this place.
For anyone in America, inventive. Do they have Bunnings in America? I think that's a very Australian thing. Yeah, that'd be Home Depot.
Just like America. A massive hardware store.
Or a Canadian Tire.
It's such a dad movie, just middle-aged man. He's
is.
right about everything. He can do everything. It's such a power fantasy for old guys.
I don't know. I just like really got a kick out of this. I thought it had a throwback action movie kind of vibe.
Yeah. There's those kind of films, and I've always loved this criticism. I've got a mate, Tristan, that I put onto a movie called It Man, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, and I showed it to him. It's this great martial arts film. And he comes back and he's like, yeah, it was cool, but like the main character was so good. Like he was the nicest. Like there's no inner conflict. Like he was always right. He was always patient. He was always the best at whatever he tried, kind of thing. And he's like, it can feel a little boring or without conflict, if that's the case. And I don't know. That doesn't seem to apply to certain movies for me, like Ip Man, like this one, where he's always right.
I think in Ip Man, he's almost got like this sort of godlike quality, which he doesn't necessarily have in Equalizer. He still seems like he's got
tortured.
Yeah, he's got a tortured soul.
That might be it.
So it balances it out nicely.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to watch number 2, which you guys have both seen.
Adjust your expectations.
Okay. Yeah, it's the second in a movie, or it's a sequel. I mean, it's never going to be. Go in with reasonable expectations.
Cool. It's the same thing again, really, but
cool.
Yeah. All right,
let's jump into the news.
Alrighty, big story this week. What's his name? Sorry, Christopher Nolan is back. He's got a new movie coming out from Warner Brothers, and it is going to arrive July 17th next year.
2020.
Yep. We don't know anything about it except that it's going to be an IMAX event movie.
That's for certain.
That's it.
He loves his IMAX.
Loves his IMAX. So really, we don't have any other information.
No.
The people's kind of worst fears is this is just like a documentary or something that he's involved with. You know how directors sometimes just do these little side projects.
I don't think it's going to be in that.
Yeah, well, capacity. Hopefully it's full-fledged entry to his canon.
Yeah. So I mean, we had a question of the week come in, and it actually had to do with this story. So we thought we'd move up our question of the week. Kind of put it out there. It comes from Eric, I believe.
Eric Carter. Our boy. Thanks, bro. He
says, quick question I want to toss out there. With Christopher Nolan's next film getting a target date, 2020, what type of film or story would you guys like to see him tackle next? Which is, I think, the question on a lot of people's lips, with there being so little information about this.
I did a bit of a Google search to just see what speculation was out there, or what sort of has been announced in the past, and it seems to be that everyone was sort of thinking he was going to do Bond. Everyone was saying next Nolan film is going to be Bond, and he's going to do Bond. Not going to happen. Cary Fukunaga's doing that, so it's really quite an open playing field. So I don't know. This sounds kind of. I think I could, if I hear back to the podcast, I could slap myself for this suggestion, but I am kind of keen for an Inception 2 for whatever reason. I would be interested to see him go back to that world and maybe make the dream sequences a little more messed up. Nolan, he kept it very grounded, but where can they go with the dream sequencing? I don't know. I seem to think that world you can explore in it, and you can open it up a little bit.
I think there's some very key reasons why he won't and shouldn't go back to that world. One will be everyone will want him to address the ending of Inception, and I think that the open-ended nature of that film is so purposeful.
Well, Michael Caine already gave it away. Remember?
Well, he did, yes, but I mean, just
Cat's out of the bag.
The movie as it is, kind of. I suppose it'd be death of the author, kind of in its own way. It's just so open-ended, and it's so kind of out there that I think that it would be weird to have.
Do you have to go? I guess the question is then: do you have to go with Leonardo DiCaprio's character? Can you just be in the Inception world? Maybe have some kind of through line with him there. I don't know. I feel like somebody like Nolan could make that work. Yeah. He doesn't really like doing sequels though, so I doubt. Yeah.
I'd be worried about
it happening.
I'd be worried about just using it as kind of too much of a gimmick. I mean, without the story and without the characters in that film, which I really think brought it all together, I feel like they would just attack it as a gimmick, and it would just kind of ruin, or not ruin, but lessen or dampen the world as it is.
I feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff they can still explore with the concepts in the world.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
So, and I think they only really tapped into this kind of the surface of it. There was also a few comic books that got released with Inception that I read, and they had an interesting world building, expansion to it. So, I don't think it's going to happen though. Okay. I really don't.
So what shut up.
I was going to ask you what. Well, I was going to give it to you, Ben. I was going to say what would you like to see him tackle?
Right, shut up. I think what would actually be the best thing here is, since Christopher Nolan is one of the only working directors who can get original blockbusters off the ground, is to make another Inception, but not like a sequel, like just another brand new property that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of mystery vibe to it. Yeah. Because for so many years, I think since Inception, he said, I've got this World War II script called Dunkirk. Everyone knew he had Dunkirk in the background. And I feel like now that was ticked off the list, there's not that film that he's had kicking around.
Yeah.
And this could be... That's maybe why I thought an Inception 2, it's got that kind of mystery vibe to it. And if he can pull off a grand scale blockbuster with something brand new,
yeah, I'd like to see him tackle comedy, something right out of his wheelhouse, like really just kind of shake it up.
I honestly would like to see that, because I think it would be so fucking horrendous.
It would be so deadpan and bland. Yeah. Pass the tea, Marjorie.
I mean, perhaps more suited. And this is I don't know that he'd be any more. Or if he'd be any better at this, but perhaps going more towards horror. I think that I've mentioned this before. Is just I find there's a lot of parallels between comedy and horror, which is exactly why I think that it might not be good for him to do this. I think that if you create a horror film that is too deadpan, too perfect, that you kind of there's something lost in that. But it'd be it'd be an interesting experiment. I think it'd probably be better at that than comedy.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. But the thing is, he is an event. He's a bums in seats guy. So he's going for an M rating mass audience. So I can't see him delving too far into horror. I can't even see him do a haunted house.
This is more like, what would you like to see him? Like, if someone with those skill sets, what would you like to see out of him? Which is, it was partially a joke, but it was partially true. Is I would like to see him do something outside of his wheelhouse, something that we haven't seen before.
I would hate to see him do a comedy. Like, that would just be god awful.
But I mean, like, just something that he's not used to doing. And I mean,
horror, I can definitely get behind. Yeah.
I haven't really loved a Chris Nolan film since Inception. So I'm not too excited until we know more about this, unfortunately.
Dunkirk.
No, I was blown away by its technical mastery, but didn't really
very technical.
Feeling in me.
He's very technical in his scripts. In that it's all very well thought out, and there's often a very planned out rules and regulations behind where it all comes, and it comes full circle with twists and turns. So from every aspect of this film is very meticulously done, and it almost has this mathematical, non-human. That's why I could never see him go and do a comedy.
One thing is for certain, it's probably going to be about a group of very important men doing very important work.
Yes.
and there's probably going to be a woman who fucks everything up. It's a Nolan movie. Done with that?
Done with that. But there's another little interesting tidbit to this story, Ben.
Oh, shit. What is it, George?
That second bullet point there.
Yeah, I can't see it. I can't see it from here.
News guy?
No, I'm going to let you have this. I'm going to let you have this one.
I just wanted to throw in here that just remind everyone that unfortunately we do have a Memento remake on the way. I just don't know if that's the right film to get a remake. Nolan isn't involved. The one little bit of hope here is that the producer has said about this film that we are working on a special project around that film, Memento. It is very private. It's not really a remake, but it's something similar. So maybe they'll just use the title and do a riff on the concept. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that film needs to be touched. It's so well executed for that concept, and it's not. I don't know. It's only sort of 20 years old. It's not really time.
It's a massive kick in the balls, that movie too. I don't really want to sit through that again. Like, it's fantastic, but man, it's fucking.
It's
crushing.
one of those films that is really an event, and you kind of feel exhausted after watching. Mm-hmm. You're like, yep, I've done my duty. I've watched Memento.
Oh, you guys don't like Memento?
I love it.
It's
Memento.
Fantastic. Yeah. Have you ever watched the chronological?
No, never.
I would really like to see that.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Of interest. All right, next up we got some big old DC EU news. Aquaman, unsurprisingly, is now the highest grossing DC film ever, passing The Dark Knight Rises.
Unsurprisingly.
Last time we talked about it was right on the heels. It was in between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises.
Go back 3 months and tell yourself Aquaman's going to become the highest DC year.
Yeah, no, I know that is insane.
Yeah.
But that's what we've been saying for a couple of months now. This is fucking
doubt.
ridiculous. I was just telling you guys earlier about watching Young Justice Season 3, which... set a few years ahead of the last season. They always do these time jumps, and the Justice League in that continuity is run by Aquaman and Wonder Woman, which is
crazy.
Possibly what we're going to be getting in the movies if these are the numbers we're looking at, because Superman really ain't shit no more.
How does that work? Can they run the show, Aquaman? Can he lead the Justice League?
Can Jason Momoa's version of Aquaman?
But how does it work? Do they make it? Are they able to pull it off?
In that continuity?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a different. It's not Arthur Curry. It's a different Aquaman at that point in the show.
Well, that changes everything.
Maybe this is just my lack of knowledge on the DCEU, but is there always like a definitive leader of Justice League?
It's more democratic, I think, usually.
Because I think like in Marvel,
but in terms of just who would be the main ones you're focusing on.
Yeah. Because this is always the case that you compare Marvel and DC, but I've always found that they've done a really good job of playing people like Iron Man and Captain America off each other and having the characters really... it felt very democratic, and there's not particularly one person that you follow as the main character throughout those Avengers films. So I think they could make it work, just put a little bit more emphasis on Aquaman and have that kind of no one's definitively leading it.
Well, to jump ahead a little bit, Patty Jenkins has come out this week. She's been doing a lot of interviews. She said that DC is going to be focusing more on solo movies now.
I thought she said that she hopes that they do.
Right, yeah. Which is definitely what they're going to be doing.
For sure.
Yeah. It's the only thing that's worked for them so far.
Yes. Which is what they should have done from the beginning. Yeah.
This is the problem. People have been saying that from the beginning.
Yes.
Which is just fucking bizarre that DC thought that they were just gonna let's just skip all the groundwork and jump to
they went from Man of Steel, which was completely self-contained. Like, there was no intention to ever make that spin into a universe, and they jumped straight into Batman v Superman after that.
Yeah, because the funny thing about this whole experiment was Man of Steel was produced by Chris Nolan, and it was almost supposed to integrate with The Dark Knight Rises.
It's much more a vestige of that.
Yeah, and then they went and did this one, and it was sort of spiraled out of control. But yeah, as we said, everyone's been saying this from the beginning. Seems bizarre. Anyway, I'm glad they're getting their footing. Another cool thing here is James Wan will probably direct the sequel if the script is noteworthy. That's for Aquaman 2.
Not noteworthy, worthy.
Oh, did I say noteworthy?
It's a very small distinction, but I kind of want to make it. Largely because what's his definition of worthy? Because if the original Aquaman script is quote unquote worthy, then we are going to have some serious issues.
Well, he's probably got a bit more got a bit more swing on this one, so he could hold out for something that he thinks is better than the first one, and hopefully he does.
And I hope that that's what it is. I hope he kind of jumped onto the first one, didn't have too much say in things like casting or more particularly scripting in that. and that he might, in fact, have a little bit more say in that. Because, that was one of my biggest criticisms of that film, which was that the casting on that, or not, sorry, the casting, sorry, the scripting and the dialogue in that.
That might just be his thing, though. His scripts, his talents might just lie elsewhere. Like, this is the Fast and Furious guy, you know.
Yeah, I don't think, I would go say the Conjuring dialogue is insanely great,
It's poetry.
It's not Shakespeare. But you know what's funny is I just reflecting on what we've been talking about a lot recently, and there's a lot less MCU news, and we've been talking a lot about DC, and now with Titans, we've all watched that. We're doing a review of that. It's really cool that comic book movies have not. Everyone's been saying, oh, it's going to die, it's going to gas out. It's great to see that it isn't gassing out, and Warner Brothers can. Hopefully, they recorrect this ship, and we've got a bunch of good movies for the next decade. Mm-hmm. I would really like to see that.
I would love some good DC movies.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, can we briefly talk about the Oscar nominations that came out this week? I just want to mainly run through the Best Picture nominations. We have Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favourite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice. So once again, they've gone for 8 nominations instead of the 10 that they're allowed to go. This is probably my most disappointing Best Picture list ever.
Well, let's just put it out there. Black Panther is in Best Picture, which is fucking insane. I think as far as cultural impact, fine, great. But for a superhero film to make the nomination list for Best Picture, seems to me that it should have been a technically great film. And I think that if you took, for something, example of Logan, was far more deserving of a Best Picture nomination than Black Panther. Even Infinity War, I think, is more deserving of that spot. If you're going to take a movie that is not only technically really spectacular, but also culturally impactful, I think that Infinity War is an easy choice.
Don't disagree at all. This is obviously the Academy striving for relevance as always, and there was a huge push by Disney for this to happen. They would have got in so much shit if they didn't do it, which is a shitty way for things to have to go. But the one thing is, when people look back on this year in film a decade in the future, there's only one movie they're going to remember, and it's fucking Black Panther. Like, in terms of like the cultural impact and everything. So it's kind of, what criteria are you basing these awards on? The sheer impact this movie had is definitely noteworthy.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a different category they could have.
That's why I get confused.
Rewarded it with,
because they've got Roma in there and then Black Panther, and those two movies, like there's no common criteria between them.
Totally, and it's a complete scattershot of different reasons why different movies are in. I think it's telling that Black Panther isn't really doing much in other categories. I feel like it's Best Picture. How nebulous that is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. This is, I guess, I think the only category they could really.
I think it's also important to take note of how these awards work, and
massive corruption.
Well, no, is that if you don't do a campaign, your film won't enter this list.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to parties, schmoozing with the board, saying hey, getting to know them, you're not going to make this list, and that applies to every category in here. Maybe some of the technical ones, sound, all those kind of things, maybe not there, but certainly Best Actor. You have to be doing that stuff. So, as Benny said, they've done.
This has nothing to do with being the best actor or having the best.
It's like it
film.
comes down to they got to vote for the best actor, and they go, oh, that guy. Jared Leto, he's a nice guy. I had a good chat to him at that party last night.
But that's my point.
Boom.
It's just money. It's corruption.
And just stupidity. The Academy has such a short memory. Like, the most notable thing here is that a movie from almost a year ago actually made it into this, because generally it's things released in the past couple of months, because that's all anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why everyone released their Oscar films from November onwards, because they want to be in the top of mind. Everyone doesn't want to be thinking about a film from 12 months ago.
What do you guys think about the rest of these nominations? Black Klansman's obviously deserving.
Yep.
We all love that.
Roma, I can definitely see why, but that's a very slow film. Not really in my wheelhouse, but certainly appreciated it when I saw it.
I haven't seen a couple of these, but The Favourite is easily the favorite for me. Like, far and away the best film on this list.
Out of those,
I'd be keen to see Green Book.
Green Book's meant to be quite good.
Fuck that movie.
Why?
I'm just so sick of these like white guilt absolving movies. You know, it's like, oh, we solved racism, everybody. We did it 50 years ago. It's just the same story again and again. It's stupid.
I watched a cool, you know that Hollywood Roundtable YouTube channel? I watched a really cool actors one. It had Mahershala Ali, Viggo Mortensen, man, who else? They're all escaping me right now, but it was a really good pool of actors. Who's Black Panther?
Chadwick
Boseman was on there. He was great. Really cool to see these guys riffing off each other and talking about them working together on the film, and then they seem to really strike up a camaraderie and really support each other. It was quite fascinating watch. So I highly recommend that. But I'm very intrigued to check that out. Yeah. Purely on just watching these guys integrate and hear about how they worked.
I think that I think you can make movies about any number of things. I don't think that. I don't see why you shouldn't make a movie about that. If it's a good story and it's acted well and it's produced well, then
Good point.
Well, no,
sorry,
like,
if I can think about my main issue is that this movie completely represents the people, the real people that it's based on. The family of the guy who Mahershala Ali is playing was very upset about his portrayal in this movie. The story, it just takes a little liberties.
Yeah.
Really
that's the thing. It's a movie. Like it's never going to be the real story because real stories are more often than not.
All right. I think it's really fucked up that they did this to real people, though. I'm allowed to think this is a stupid movie.
I'm not saying that you are, but I'm just saying that that's this movie specifically. I feel like that's a weird thing to bring up. Anyways, is there anything else that stood out for the rest of the nominations?
Toni Collette got fucking robbed, unsurprisingly.
Sorry, who?
Toni Collette.
Oh, yeah.
Not nominated for Best Actress for Hereditary, but that was never going to happen. Bullshit.
I will say this is weird. I haven't seen, and sort of go right back to Green Book, but I haven't seen the movie, but is Ali the supporting character? Is it about Viggo Mortensen? I was kind of confused of how they determined that.
Actually, don't know much about that film, to be perfectly honest.
Anything on you?
Again, it's so ill-defined, all these things.
Yeah. Repping Adam Driver to win something. He's Best Supporting Actor, right? I really want him to win for Black Klansman because I think he did a killer job in that portrayal.
Maybe this year we'll finally find out what the difference between sound editing and sound mixing is, because the Academy certainly doesn't know.
For director, anything that jumps out?
I kind of want to give it to Spike Lee. Just because I think this is one of the best films he's done in a while, and I really did enjoy Black Klansman.
It was a really solid film.
I think he really put a lot of himself in this, and I think that when you think of Best Director, you have to think about the tone of voice of that director, and if somebody else, Chris Nolan came and did Black Klansman, how different would it be? Yeah. I think this is definitely a Spike Lee. This is his baby, he put a lot of his ideals in here, whether you agree with them or not. So I respect him for that. So I'd like him to get that.
It's definitely going to Coron though.
Yeah, for sure.
The black and white movie.
Yeah. I feel like I'm kind of broken record at this point, but I would have loved to see the Russo brothers in the at least nominations for director.
Definitely.
Being able to helm that is...
Yeah, it's a monster.
Again, whether you like the film or you hate the film, there's kind of technical mastery there of...
Sorry, just going back to the black and white, I could just imagine like a board of executives just sitting down to Alfonso Cuarón, and it's like, Alfonso, listen, we've got a great script here. This is potentially an Oscar winner, black and white baby. We have to do this. Oh no.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alfonso, that's a terrible impression of you. I really apologize.
Incredibles 2, an animated feature. That's insane.
The animated ones. I don't think most of the Academy members even see them. No. The amazing thing is that Spider-Man actually made it in, even though it's I think easily the best one.
Yeah.
Hopefully that takes it.
I would love to see Spider-Man take
underdog, I reckon.
If that wins it, there's hope for this world.
Maybe.
Well.
I hate the Oscars. I honestly hope I don't hear about any results. So they just rile me up.
I feel like we've all said that we wanted to skim past these, but we're going to go into it in a little bit too much detail. I'm happy to move on.
Absolutely. Next up, Detective Pikachu sequel is already in the works from one of the writers of 22 Jump Street, Oren Uziel.
Love it.
You haven't seen the first one yet.
I've got such a good feeling about this.
Early word is remarkably positive for this movie, which is really cool. I hope this is fucking brilliant because last year or past few years, we've had a few video game movies that are moving into decent territory. No, I don't think.
Man, right?
Doom. Doom.
I'm talking about your Tomb Raider, which I thought was half decent. Nothing that I would qualify as like finally they made a really good one. But if this could be it, that'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't it though?
That ticks a lot of my boxes. Nintendo.
I love how absolutely not even positive, but like as if there was any question that this was going to be a bad film when we first heard about it. Like the idea that Ryan Reynolds is playing Pikachu, that it's a real world detective Pikachu. Like it seemed like, oh, people have lost their minds. Fair enough. There's B movies that get made all the time.
Yeah.
And for it to do such a 180, in not only my mind, but the kind of public opinion is bizarre. I just like it just...
Like the first thing that comes to my mind is that I think I watched that trailer not too long ago again, and it's such a killer trailer. And I feel like one of the things they've done well in is they've got the Pokemon. They've got a good grasp on how to make them work in this format. For whatever reason, it just seems to not be jarring. It doesn't seem to be like Smurfs. It's
not Sonic.
Which we thought it was going to be. So I feel like, and I could be completely wrong here, but I'm going to put this down to Nintendo. Nintendo are notorious with not giving any of their IPs away for licensing. I put it down to them having a very... maybe some kind of consultancy group or somebody really helping shepherd this project through because I don't know, they seem to have fucking nailed it. And
I think the rights issues for Pokemon...
I hope they nail it in the long form film.
Definitely. I think the rights issues for Pokemon are a little more complicated than that. I don't think Nintendo outright owns it. The Pokemon Company and them have this weird relationship.
Right, okay.
But I think the Pokemon Company as well are very protective about it. So
for sure.
I also think Ryan Reynolds is hitting kind of a stride now where he can almost do no wrong. I say very kind of. I feel waiting for him to do wrong.
I feel like that gas tank is kind of worn off.
Really?
Everyone's starting to remember his past.
I don't think we've talked about the Deadpool 3 announcement that he mentioned, wherein he said, we're doing Deadpool 3 and it's going to be really, really different from 1 and 2. And I feel like it's just like, okay, I mean, we're not talking about it this week and... I guess there's going to be a Deadpool 3. When Deadpool 1 came out, I was like, Ryan Reynolds, you're the man! You're the man!
You were just running down the street screaming at people, grabbing them, slapping them.
Just like, Ryan!
Do you know what's happening right now?
I'm not sure. But listen, I feel like completely separate to that, he's nailing it in this Detective Pikachu role from what I've seen in the trailer. So
I've been keeping something from you guys. There was a new.
You're a furry Pokemon.
I'm a Pokemon furry. There was a new trailer for Detective Pikachu, a TV one. I don't know if you guys saw it. I intentionally left it off last week because it was too disheartening. It ends with Pikachu farting. It's a fart joke. I'm like, fuck.
No, I can deal with that.
This being in the movie is one thing, but then putting it in the trailer as well, I'm like, oh, like goodwill, man. It's actually on YouTube on a lot of channels as the Pikachu farting trailer. I'm like, oh, man.
Is it any good?
It's not funny. It's stupid.
No, but is the trailer good other than the fart?
There's not much new stuff in it. It's a TV one.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But
that's fine. Yeah. Fart away, Pikachu, man.
Odd misstep.
Do your thing.
All right, next up, Sony is making a Morbius movie, thank God, and they've cast Matt Smith, former Doctor Who.
Former Terminator Genesis Skynet
yep.
hologram.
So
person.
Can I ask you a quick question? You guys are obviously really big fans of Venom, far more than I am. Does the success of Venom give you, I don't know if renewed hope is, any hope for Morbius or the continued Sony Smuck or whatever it's called?
Schmuck?
Schmuck.
You schmuck.
Sunk.
That's
Sony
right.
Universe's Marvel characters.
Wow. The only thing, no, short answer. The only thing though that kind of does make me think maybe is just maybe after Venom doing so well, they will just be okay to let these things be their own thing a little more, like maybe loosen the grip a little bit on them. And I think there's like a 50-50 chance of that actually happening. But if they do, I think there might actually be some potential here. Like, because with these characters, as much as we make fun of the idea of this, and everyone online does. I kind of like the idea of using these, Z-list characters that no one gives a shit about, because they can do anything with them.
Well, I feel like Aquaman, Titans, these B-list, these D-list characters. Even you can throw Iron Man into the mix.
Yeah,
reinvent them, add something new to the mix. Let's not see Superman, Batman again. I'm bored of
baggage.
Let's go to explore some new shit.
But I think that then brings you around to the question is, who is handling it? And the idea that Sony is in charge of this project has never brought forth a great sense of confidence in myself. I still don't have that confidence because I think that Venom was lackluster at best. I mean, I don't know, like, does that feel like it's in the right hands to you?
Guys, maybe it's Christopher Nolan.
Ooh.
Maybe Morbius is what he's doing.
Listen, my opinions on Jared Leto. But I
honestly
actually
don't. Half the time I think you do, half the time I think you hate
I was saying to Ben, we need to have a little wall of George's wall of hate and have Mark Strong, Jude Law, Jared Leto all pinned up on there.
Yeah, Connor.
With the little knives in them.
The little darts, yeah.
Burnt out eyes.
Yeah.
You know what?
So
I think...
and I don't think for any three of those people you've given a really concrete
There's no
answer
rationale.
as to why you hate those
no
people.
Strong
like
rationale.
Mark Strong's in too many movies. Or
He hasn't been in a movie since 2015. No, I've got a strong one for Jude Law. His face makes me angry.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm only human. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Morbius, it's a movie and it's coming out. And Matt Smith's in it.
Yeah, okay. Onwards to even more exciting news.
Yeah. Next up, Connor, I'm going to let you take this one. This is Connor's Lord of the Rings corner.
Okay, yeah, sure. I to be honest, though, I didn't even know that this was happening. And Ben, you alerted to this to me, half an hour ago, just before we started the podcast. There's a Tolkien movie based on Tolkien. And it has Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien, and they've released an image of him. These kinds of images there's never really much to them. But do either of you know much about Tolkien? Like, even just kind of generally?
I know he was born in South Africa, and then he moved to the UK, and I know he went to... I've forgotten whether it was World War I or World War II.
One.
And he drew a lot on those experiences. But other than that, the bullet points, I don't know much else about him.
Yeah.
And I know he wrote 4 books.
There you go. And maybe 4.5, I think.
Yeah, Silmarillion. Somebody else finished it. His kid
son,
or something.
Yeah. I think it's Chris
Hey,
Tolkien.
son, finish it.
Yeah.
Get
well,
to
he died. Look, in terms of biopics, I mean, I've never had a great amount of hope for biopics. They often fall into the same traps and tropes as each other. Having said that, I really like Nicholas Hoult. I've always thought he's a really good actor and enjoyed what he's been in. On top of that, I think that this is a really interesting story. I think the story of his life and how his experiences kind of bled through into the overall universe that he created. I think that there's room to do something very interesting with this. No idea whether they will do something interesting with this, but I feel like there is the potential with this, and it is looking at the birth of one of the most, I guess, formative, or the kind of the
influential.
Influential is probably the best word for it. Yeah, most influential fantasy worlds ever to...
Everyone's chasing him for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, kind of everything bases it off Tolkien's elves and his dwarves, and but it's really fascinating to see where he drew inspiration from, and like building entire languages and using different aspects of the real world to influence that. I can just see in my mind something really cool being done with this.
I hope it's just really contrived, and it has him witnessing like real world versions of all the things that happened in Lord of the Rings.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Meets a guy called like Pegulus. He's like,
so he just meets John Rhys Davies, and he's like, and my gun.
Yeah,
like he's in the trench, and then there's like the Legolas character.
Yeah.
He's like, he was the most handsome man in the trenches.
Every scene ends with him like,
I can definitely. I think if they found a way to bring aspects of that without going full ridiculous with them.
No, I want it to be full on.
Yeah, he's like in a tent, and he's like, I will name this area Elrond.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Seriously, please make that movie. Nicholas Hoult, House, whatever your name is.
Yeah. Look, I think this is going to come across very generic, and I don't think it's going to have the nuance.
I think a documentary would have a better, a more effective way to tell the story.
No one will see a documentary.
And evidently, but I think the guy who made the documentary directed this or something. There's some tie there.
Yeah.
Go look it up yourselves. You're not going to get any
seen anything by here. Dom Karakowski?
One more time.
Dom Karakowski.
Dong. Hey, please respect the creators out there, my friend.
Someone look him up quickly. I have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
Looking it up now.
This is fun.
Finish.
This is good.
Yeah, this is good.
Nah, nothing.
Nah. Okay.
Let's move on.
Finally, we have a new image from Hobbs and Shaw, or Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. It's The Rock about to explode, I think.
Seriously.
It's a bit terrifying.
It's him and another WWE guy.
Oh, yeah?
There's a second photo. Oh, no, not in this. Not the one you have there. Yeah, he looks big.
There was a period there.
Is this the latest level? Is this a new threshold?
There was a period there where every movie he got a little bigger or a lot bigger. I think he kind of just stagnated for a little while there, but I think he's done it again. He's ascended.
Jesus.
Fast 5. That was one where he went to a whole new level. He was like, whoa.
No, Pain and Gain. He was fucking huge in Pain and Gain.
We should get a little Rock timeline. Because you see him in the WWE and you're like, wow, that guy's lean.
Yeah.
Do you think that we've had enough Rock for a while? I mean, if you're going to get angry at Mark Strong for being in too many movies, surely there's a little bit of reservation for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I mean, I didn't like Jumanji much, so...
Man, everyone else did.
But I've just got a soft spot for this guy. He's just giving life 110%, and I just respect his work ethic.
I think you just got to not watch as many movies as he makes.
Just follow him on Instagram. And watch his videos. Don't watch his movies.
Like last year, watch Rampage and skip Skyscraper. You know, if you watch both of them, you probably will be burnt out.
Rampage was cool.
Yeah. We also got a little word from Vin Diesel here. On the other side of the franchise, as you know, there are 3 new spin-offs that we have promised Universal. I did not know that. Well, this week we heard a pitch for the fast female protagonist-driven spin-off I created in 2017. So it looks like we could be getting hello. Could be getting a lady-focused Fast and Furious movie.
I don't know why that sounds funny.
So I assume this would be maybe Michelle Rodriguez, Letty.
Smart move.
A few of the other characters. Maybe they'd probably throw all the money in the world to try and get Gal Gadot back because she was in one of them.
Yeah. I think didn't she die in one?
Yeah, definitely. But so did all the other characters in one of the other ones as well.
Back.
Yeah.
This
this makes a lot of sense. You know,
huge
build
franchise.
a TV series, hit different demographics with different types of shows, movies.
There's a
other
lot
IP,
and
whatever.
Fast and Furious is notably probably the most for its scale, diverse.
Yes,
in terms of cast and creatives, which is really cool. Totally. So they should definitely tap into that.
It's got worldwide appeal.
Yeah,
you know, it's popular everywhere. So
it'll be interesting. I want to see when this franchise will collapse under its own weight because I feel like it's run by people that had never had any intention of something growing to this size, and I'm not entirely sure that when it started out that there was the competence to handle something like this. So it'll be really interesting to see, you know, if the weight of it becomes too much. I mean, there's already internal conflicts that have thrown the entire franchise into strife.
But it's amazing with the popularity of cars that there's not more movers in this space. Need for Speed didn't seem to make it work. The Aaron Paul movie from like 2013 or something.
But I think people that love cars, like, it's not a huge demographic. People that love cars. Like, there's people that like cars. Like me, I'll go and watch this film and I'll appreciate
But there's people who love cars, man. Like car shows, people who are into cars. Like it's...
But if you look at anything car-related, there's something else to that then. Like, I mean, Top Gear is one of the... And forgot to mention this in my watched this week section, but I started watching the Amazon Prime season 3 of
Grand Tour.
Thanks. And you get the sense, like, so little about that, series, and the Top Gear series before it was really about the actual cars. It was very much about the personalities around that.
That's a different type of entertainment.
Yeah. But I mean, you look at Fast Furious, it's very, very little about the actual cars. I mean, at these points, it's just big action films. They might as well be Mission Impossible films.
There's not more that people can tap into this space and give different angles, different types of stories. Like, you don't have to go the over-bloated Fast and Furious. Is there room in the space for a more like badass, gritty, car? I don't know. I just feel interested
with the success of this franchise. You think there would be more imitators?
I'm surprised there's not more like quote unquote car movies. You got so many superhero movies. I mean, why is that? There seems to be a cap on it.
Go back to the Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
all right.
What time is it?
It's trailer time.
I nearly did it. I had to physically stop myself.
Thank God.
All right. First, we have. Christ knows why this is actually first.
Or in here at all.
Or why it's here at all, yeah. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, which is a Netflix trailer. This
looks so brutal.
Not even going to try to pronounce his name because I never get it right.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, starring and directing.
That one. Who I really like.
He's great.
I first saw him, I believe, in Serenity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I always thought I connected with that character I connected with the actor as a really good force in that film.
Brilliant in that.
This trailer did absolutely nothing for me.
It's you've got to be in a certain mood for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for something inspiring, something that's probably going to crush you and be very confronting in a lot of ways, but it's also got the sort of Hollywood like
sheen
to it. Yeah, so doesn't look like quite as realistic a portrayal as. Like, we're talking about two very separate issues here, but 12 Years a Slave, you've got very, very different tones of voice here, but it's going to have that same crushing kind of feeling to it.
I love Chiwetel, but he's no Steve McQueen. I thought it was a really terrible trailer, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just what he's working with like a Netflix budget or something, but it was just so like, all right, now I have the shot of him acting, and I mean acting.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you yelling at the kid? I'm like, okay. And now show him crying again. Now show him crying from this angle. Now show him crying again.
Yeah.
His whole performance just looks like so teary-eyed the whole time.
And I feel like with those films, you walk such a fine line. Like, if you're going to go for over-the-top inspirational, if you're going to go for really, dramatic or that, you have to make sure that all your ducks in a row if you're going to go after that. Because I think audiences can sniff out insincerity. Or not even just insincerity, but if something doesn't quite feel right, if there isn't the right level of intent behind it, I think that it comes off. It may not be insincere, but it comes off as insincere.
It can come
and that's
across,
that sheen that you were talking about.
Yeah, it can come across contrived, that everything's like this, just getting beaten down, and it can be like, okay, right, we're just going with this whole angle here, and there's no nuance in it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm pretty off biopics right now, I gotta say. Not interested. Next up,
we've got Umbrella Academy. I think I was just really underwhelmed by most of the trailers this week. Didn't do much for me. This is a movie about young superheroes that are I guess what,
it's a series,
adopted.
Yeah? It's based off a comic book series by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance. I've read both of these comics that it's based off, and they're really cool. They're really interesting, and I'm glad this is coming out. I wonder, it's hard to get right. It's a very, very quirky, one of the dudes has giant, you couldn't even really see it in this trailer, that one of them is kind of like a monkey ape man guy, and he's got massive fists.
You mean the chimpanzee?
Yeah, no, the dude, the guy in the big
so there's a chimpanzee and a dude with like monkey fists? Okay.
Space Boy. I think it's Space Boy is his name, but anyway, it's just got a very quirky vibe and very stylized art from Gabriel Ba. That's how you pronounce his name.
This feels just kind of, for me, a little bit under budget, a little half-assed. Kind of, I think it's skating on that idea that we're, it's street and it's kind of edgy and let's go, and I feel like that can just so often not translate well into film or series, or I just don't feel like that medium works well all the time for that.
Yep. So I listen. I wonder if they've nailed it. We'll see in the end product. But it's a very, very cool source material.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Next is The Boys. Very similar. Very strange trailer. I thought that this one was not well put together. I didn't.
Oh, it's a really weird trailer. It was just like no dialogue. It was just random shots.
Yeah, I didn't hate that. I don't
know. Yeah.
It reminded me a little bit of The Losers. That film from like 2009.
I think that might also be a Garth Ennis comic, to be honest.
It looks so similar.
So the premise is basically superheroes. There's a world full of superheroes, and they kind of suck. They're all like corrupt and celebrity and bullshit. And there's just these guys who aim to kind of take them down, knock them down a peg. The Boys.
The concept is cool.
Yeah, and I don't think you really get that in a trailer
no,
at all.
No, you really don't. And I like the second trailer, which is a lot older.
So that was the trailer that came out a couple months ago, yeah.
I think conceptually I'm really into it. Execution, I'm not into it at all.
The comic is fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Yeah, it is profane and fucking graphic and shit happens. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how deep they're going to dive into that, but it's pretty base and fucking unappealing, but good work. I don't know.
Yep. Next up,
we've got the Hummingbird Project.
Which one was this?
Drilling a straight line.
Jesse Eisenberg. Alexander Skarsgård.
This has got a lot of promise for me.
Yeah,
I'm
getting like
keen.
Big Short type vibes from it. I mean, it does deal with slightly similar subject matter.
A little bit of Social Network in there, albeit not as dark. More seemed to be a bit more fun.
Yeah, I think that this, as with a lot of these kinds of films, has enormous potential. They've gotten some really talented actors, but it'll really come down to how they stitch all the events together. I mean, there's films like War Dogs, Big Short, just things that like tackle real world events and real people. That I feel like there's such a difficulty in, particularly if something happens over like a year or 2 years, making sure that you get the bullet points of what happens and that you don't feel like it's just kind of, hitting the bullet points of just randomly. That was not well said. Fuck having stroke. Basically like that.
there's a kind of a thin distinction between like movies based on true events and biopics, but the former I think is much richer in terms of what they can do with it, because they're less focusing on dramatizing a real person's life and making them an interesting character, and it's more like in an entertaining way showing you something that actually happened.
But the challenge within both of those, I guess, whatever you would call them,
genre of film, I don't know.
Let's go with that.
Type of film.
Is that you have to boil down, as you said, Connor, 2 years worth of events into 2 hours. How do you, and it's got to adhere to a 3-act structure. How do you create that, and what do you cut? What do you keep in? That's the challenge within these things.
Look at things like Wolf of Wall Street, done brilliantly. I think that was a really good film in terms of, the scripting and the pacing and everything, really well done. I don't know if either of you have seen Fool's Gold. It's the Matthew McConaughey one about...
No, I missed that one.
The Albertan gold scandal.
That was cool.
Yeah, look, it was really well acted. It's interesting source material, but at the end of it, I kind of felt like, Like, I know a little bit about something that happened, but I didn't really feel as though the movie kind of kept me fully entertained all the way through, and it kind of fell into some of the pit traps that we mentioned.
What about this one itself, Benny? What did you think of the Hummingbird Project trailer?
It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this coming to cinemas, Netflix? I feel like I'm probably not going to see it.
Cinemas, I think. Skarsgård dancing was good.
Yeah,
I love the look.
He was the highlight of the trailer. Yeah.
He's such a handsome devil, and they've really dressed him down in this.
yeah.
How do you feel about Jesse Eisenberg?
I like that he wasn't the tech guy in this. I thought that was a good little way. That's why it's kind of like The Social Network, and it's a guy relentlessly pursuing something, but he's a different type of character what he normally plays.
I like him a lot. He copped so much shit over the past decade for being Michael Cera too.
Yeah.
But where's Michael Cera now?
Yeah. He's on stage, bro. Just on a little tangent, listen to the A24 podcast of Jonah Hill and Michael Cera reuniting 10 years later, talking about
really?
Superbad. Hilarious. Yeah. They don't talk anything about the movie. They talk only about the press tour and all the wild things that happen.
That's awesome.
Hilarious. Highly recommend.
Finally, on our trailer time, we have Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
Which one was this one?
This is the Ted Bundy one. Oh. So this trailer is actually... I came across this trailer because of an article talking about how poorly received it's been. And I...
The trailer or the movie?
The trailer more so. I kind of get why. It's a very oddly toned trailer.
It's rather cavalier about the whole situation.
Well, exactly. Like, I mean, this is a guy that is genuinely pretty sick. I don't know why I said pretty sick. Like, he's fucking sick. And it also feels relatively recent, I suppose. But the idea that then we're kind of glorifying him in this trailer, it just seemed odd. I don't know. It didn't fit tonally, particularly because, and correct me if I'm wrong, the director was the guy that just did the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix, which is meant to be
that's right.
Relatively chilling and probably more true to form in terms of, who this guy really was and kind of the terror behind it. Yeah, the trailer just didn't sit right with me. It
also feels a little like the trailer's trying to be like, "Ooh, did he do it or not? Or is he just some charming guy who got caught up in all this?"
That's what's interesting.
No, we know he did it.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting about this character was I don't think everyone could believe that he did do it.
Yeah, but that's a more interesting angle than what I feel I was seeing there.
Yes, and that's why I feel like they haven't quite nailed it.
Yeah. And also Zac Efron, I haven't really seen him do much dramatic stuff. I think he's brilliant. I love Zac Efron as a comedic actor. I think he's fucking up there. But I feel like he really got this role because he looks so crazy like Ted Bundy. And that's the number one reason he's been cast in this. So hopefully he can actually live up to the...
And also I think the baggage that he brings in that, can you believe Zac Efron's playing a murderer? That weaves into the angle that they're trying to do casting. With...
I will be very interested to see if the tone of the trailer contrasts with how that contrasts with some of the subject matter in the film and how they handle that. I think that will really kind of bring to light why they did the trailer like that. If the entire film ends up being like that, I'm not sure about that, but it got good reviews out of Sundance.
Okay.
Movie might be good.
Cool.
Movie coming to your screen soon. And with that, guys, that's the end of the weekly movie show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out our Titans review with spoilers. So if you have or haven't seen it, we're going to be talking about it. It's going to be a lot and lots of fun. Join us next week for some more movie antics. We're going to be reviewing something, I'm pretty sure. Lego Movie 2, Lego Movie 1, retro review, possibly.
May very well be. I haven't checked.
Listen, roll the dice if that happens. I've mentioned it, now we'll see. Farewell, Connor.
Bye.
Farewell, Manny. Bye. This is our little, for the end bit, the little bits we have at the end. Just gotta
whoa, wacky.
That's it.
Extra stuff.
Can't force it. Can't force it, George. Can't force it.
Additional content. Done. Do your fucking intro, mate.
Alrighty. I'll go to you, Connor.
Yeah, sweet. Wait, I should actually figure that out then, shouldn't I?
Here we go. This is where the content really comes.
Yeah.
In the fuck ups.
Oh, my.
So we'll do question of the week in segment 1.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Can you just jump in with that when you're ready?
Eric Carter, our boy.
Eric Cartman.
Cartman Erica.
Fuck. That can't go in any episode. You ready?
Yeah, let's get it done. Fucking
so aggressive. All right.